Takes a second. Okay. Okay, well, so hello, everybody. So today we were, okay.
Started.
Yeah. Well, Ting Lu is rejoining, so are you having a internet issues, Ting, or?
You're on mute, Ting.
Yeah. Can you hear us okay, Ting?
She had some audio issues last time we were on the phone a couple days ago.
Okay, but you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah,
yes.
we can hear you.
Okay. So Ting, can you hear me? Okay,
Ting, if you can hear us, wave your hand. Nope.
Okay, well, let's see.
Maybe a chat. She can get a chat.
Yeah, I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey guys.
There she is.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's weird. Every time I join, it seems taking a couple minutes to get the speaker and the mic work. I'm not sure why.
Did you pay your bill?
So what we have, we had a discussion before this call with the core team meeting, and we were debating what kind of things how to approach today's meeting. And the conclusion was that we would try to make it interactive, that we would look at a specific process, the one that Ting has started to work on that we discussed before, which is prioritizing IT projects, and that we would try to look at challenges there. So I don't have like a very tight script about how we're going to go about this today, but I have 3 things that I can share. And I'll have to see from Ting, because she'll be integral part of this conversation, how Ting, how you would like to approach this. We could, I have 3 things. I have just 3 or 4 slides to just kind of put things in context of what the model was for the technology layer from the 5039 project. It will take less than 5 minutes. I have prepared a Mentimeter session that allows people to kind of interactively, answer some questions and provide some feedback. And I have a mural page that we were working on as you were starting to develop the model of your business process. So how would you like, do you want me to just start with the context and then, or do you want to launch immediately into your diagram? What would you like to do?
No, go ahead, Cello. I think for your stuff first, and then, mine is just a discussion there, so.
Okay, so let me just share my screen for a second here. So this is really from the 5039 project, where we looked at the technology piece and primarily at the maturity assessment, not so much analyzing the system state. So this analysis of as is will start with the business process and performance management to look at what are we trying to improve, to define then number 2, business needs, and then to see, are we collecting the data that we need? Then are we managing it properly? Do we have the proper nomenclature, taxonomy? Is it consistent? Is data reliable? Is it complete? And so forth. And then at the analytics and insights capabilities, and then are we providing the proper decision support that would provide back these enhanced capabilities to the business processes? So this is sort of it would kind of go this way. This is counterclockwise. The one, if we're analyzing the situation as is. Now, some of these things would have to be done by the business side. For example, define the data and information collection requirements, define the requirements for analytics, define decision support requirements. So that would be done by the business. And then this yellow part is the place where the technologies or technology people come in. So if we were actually trying to look at designing something to be improvements, we may start the cycle in a different way, in clockwise, so that we start with the business needs and say what kind of decision support do we need, what kind of analytics, and then come down and say, okay, what data do we need to collect? So that's just to put the framework, to put the context together, that there are these 4 layers in terms of, are we sensing, collecting data that we need? Are we managing it properly? Do we provide analytics capabilities? And does this provide effective decision support? So these are just I'm sorry about that. A few slides. I want to stop just a minute and see if there are any questions or concerns about this. Anybody? Mike? Sounds reasonable? You're on mute. Or Jenny?
Jeez, it was stuck.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting tinnitus over here, but no questions at this point.
Okay. Anybody else? Scott, Parker, or Deb? Anybody? Okay. So that's sort of the context. So our method was to really look at a specific process, such as IT how do we prioritize? Why don't you say describe this process, Ting, so I don't mess it up and say something incorrectly.
Thank you, Cello. Yeah, that's a perfect. It's a segue. It's really utilizing what Cello has developed here with the technology process and to support for clean water services is the IT, we call it the digital solutions department, a project sequencing model. So this, Cello, I think this is the as is that correct?
That is correct, yes. And let me show you, let me just make it a little bit bigger. So there are a few swim lanes like the business users, digital solutions and management and team, business unit management, and business partners group. This may have a little bit different, vocabulary in different organizations. So let me quickly show just this interactive part. Give me just 1 second. That we might be able to use. So to get some feedback and get the discussion going. So the questions that I've prepared is one is to describe the process that you currently have for reviewing and prioritizing IT projects, whether it's well documented, applied consistently, whether it's inclusive, the current state of prioritizing, whether it's user requirements are clear, complete, just in general. Good technology is readily available, project cost estimating is accurate, integration with existing is easy. And then this would say how the data that you have access to is used to make decisions. We have all the data we need, it's accurate, reliable, and so forth. And then this would be sort of just what kind of, what was proposed that will lead to discussion about the challenges that you currently would have when you're prioritizing these projects. So think, would this be helpful if we make it interactive like this, or do you want to go into the details of your process first?
No, I would love to hear everyone how you feel about your own IT project sequencing or prioritization before we jump into where we are.
Okay, so in the chat line, let me see. I provided you a link that you can use to get to this page in Mentimeter. And as you log in, we will see your responses here. If you want to do it on the phone, you can use the same link on your phone. And it is already, we're getting, am I still sharing my screen? Can you guys still see my
Yes.
screen? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just wait for a few minutes till people kind of provide input.
And Cello, they're referring to their own process viewing and prioritizing technology projects, correct?
Yes. The assumption here is that the people on this call would typically be involved in the prioritization of IT projects. And what is their current experience? My chair is stuck. What is their current experience and with these things in their organization? And if any time somebody wants to raise their voice, say something and engage, please do that and interrupt me. So, the more interaction and feedback we can get, it'll be easier. Scott Parker says hand up. Thank you, Scott. You're on mute.
Of course, you can always rely on me to pontificate, Cello, no problem. No, I think it's a really interesting question or series of questions. For our organization, we have spent a lot of time focusing actually on these questions. In the previous to my time here, IT projects were sort of a catch-as-catch-can approach, and through a lot of messaging, through some pretty stringent standards, and through some some coordination on our staff side, we have wrangled particularly the first two, which is that the process is well documented. So in other words, if someone brings forward an IT project to us, there's a process that they have to absolutely go through, and they have to document it.
Okay.
The consistency to all projects, I would say we're getting there. But I was going to throw out one of the reasons for the movement on the first question is because I mandated a business case evaluation process for any new IT system purchases, and it has to go through the IT group and which is under me, that team's review before anything is selected, and that has really changed. Well, it's changed pretty much everything associated with our data management, not just our IT, our data management as well. So for those who are interested in that, I certainly could share that. I think that's in some of the artifacts that I've put forward before. But
yeah, that would be fantastic. Zonetta joined us a little bit late, just a moment ago. Zonetta, I typed into the chat line the link that if you'd like to get into the Mentimeter to vote and provide response, you can just use the link that's in the chat line.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Cello.
Thank you. So, okay, so this sounds reasonable. So let's it's a little bit of a gymnastic here. If we go to the next question, which is, whether you feel that user requirements you typically see or deal with are clear and complete, whether technology that you could use to solve your problem is readily available, project cost estimating is accurate. IT projects have a bit of a reputation for going, outside, outside of cost, and whether integration with existing systems is easy. Just a few things just to start getting a sense where the, what kinds of things are helpful or where the challenges are before we get into kind of a little bit less structured area. So let me see. Okay. So it doesn't seem like the availability of technology is the biggest problem.
That's the easy part, right?
Well, that's my impression, but it's always nice to get some validation or confirmation and
Yep.
in your assumptions. So just give one more minute for folks to respond and okay. All right, excellent, thank you. So then I'm going to go to the next one, which is in the process to prioritize IT projects. Do you have all the data that you need to make these decisions? Is this data accurate and reliable? Can you get to it, the data that you need to make these decisions, the priorities and decision, and whether you have the tools in place to analyze the data that, the tools that you need. Sorry for maybe the grammar wasn't the best in, but this, specifically for this process. And then the next question, once we get through this, will be really freewheeling to give you a chance to provide any kind of comment or input that you can, that we can collect and then use as we go forward. Okay, excellent, thank you. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. What the heck happened? What the heck happened to me? So give me just a second. I have to get back to Mentimeter. There it is. There it is. Sorry.
Do we have
sorry,
a question do we have a question in there that says, and users know how to use it?
I was just thinking that.
That's a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, this was user error. I'm terrible at multitasking. It's not even close. So here you can just type in, because this was going to be the proposal from the core team that we're discussing today, is to have a chance for people to identify the challenges that you have experienced when prioritizing IT projects, so that as we start going forward and describing what is the best way to approach, we can always look back and say, are we addressing the challenges that people have mentioned? So I'll just sit back and let folks enter things that make sense and resonate with them. Ting, I hope you're typing with one hand. Okay.
Good job, Cello. I don't know how you're kind of going through all the different tools website.
Okay, excellent. The first one we got. The second one. Yeah. Okay, excellent. This is very useful. So let's just give people a chance to. And if if you have any trouble with Mentimeter, I think most people have been able to log in as a backup. You can type it into the Teams chat line, but it'd be a little bit easier to deal with if, and you can, I believe that you can enter as many comments that you want. If you have any, sometimes the default limits how many comments people provide. I hope that I overrode that, that I remember to override that default limitation. Okay, so let's just give people a chance to offer their input, and then we'll go. Then
are you able to save all these data points? I think this is really great as is from an industry-wide where we are, and hopefully through the process, and we are all seeing improvement later on.
That is correct. I will be. What I will do is after the call today, I'll take all of these items and I'll put them in the spreadsheet. The other ones, all of these results, I will post back to the folder that contains that we keep stuff related to this phone call today. So these results are going to be posted there and available and so forth.
Very, very good.
Okay.
Cello, while we're waiting for more comments to come in, one of the questions, I mean, it's like the third set of questions to the last. I don't remember exactly, but it's like, is technology readily available or something like that? Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful to be more precise, because I was thinking, well, I'm going to put a 5 there because, yeah, somewhere it's maybe not internal to what we already have, but there is technology available. So if you mean internally, like already, you might want to put that in that question.
Yeah, that's a good point. What I meant to say is there stuff out there? You know, not that what you're necessarily using already, but you've been to a conference or you've seen somebody else. You're aware that technology that would address your issues is there. You know,
well,
in the marketplace, yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe if you add in the marketplace, that would help.
Yeah, I can't do it right now.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
And Cello, people are adding additional comments in the comment field. So when you assemble this information, be sure to look in the comments in the chat.
Yeah.
And because there's some, good items in there.
Yeah, that's good. So, okay, I see that some people that this Mentimeter is not allowing them to enter more comments. So please use the chat line. I may have forgotten. Sometimes by default they limit how many things people can type in, and I forgot to switch off the button and say, just let people enter as many comments as they want. So I'm sorry about that. It seems like that's the limit that we're hitting. So I will say let's just use the chat line from now on. It seems like we're kind of stuck there. But these diagrams, yes, all of these things are going to be posted. Ting, just so you know.
Yeah, great.
So let me see. Okay, so at this point, we have at least 3 people from the core team. I think Mike Sweeney, Ting Lu, and Scott Parker. So let's get a conversation going, and also, start looking at. Did you want to look at your diagram at all, Ting, or talk about it, or
yeah, let's well, maybe I'll share my presentation here.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Let me stop sharing. Okay, take it away.
Share my screen here. Just a second. And Cello, those are great survey questions. It's really for me to understand, where we are, and I share all the challenges and the comments there within Clean Water Services. As I'm leading the digital solutions department, that's constantly kind of a process I have been seeing a struggle and trying to improve. So I want to give everyone a perspective on where we are with the sequencing model. So about 3 years ago and before, we have a quarterly plan process. So basically, all the business departments will submit project requests, and then we will go through with each department and talk about what their request is. And then there is the IT council, even though their role is to prioritize the project, but there's not a robust process and metrics to prioritize the project. So it's pretty much, this is what we will do, this will be deferred. So there were quite some of the people, departments saying this not working, and it's not working for all the departments. And also another issue, people saying is we have to wait for a quarter to get my project on, but I need to do this tomorrow. So there really just a consistency and also the time frame there. And this is prior to pandemic. So as I started leading IT digital solutions, and we implement a work queue item, and this is also in response to pandemic, but because a lot of this in-person face-to-face meeting was canceled, at the beginning, it's really hard to coordinate with everyone. So we started the SharePoint site. So basically, it's an agile process. Anyone could submit a work queue request. So there is the urgency, there is what the project request is. And then, so it addressed the long time hold issue. People don't need to wait on a quarterly basis. And it's been okay at the starting with the pandemic, as people all have a different priorities. But now as we see more, we have getting back to the operational mode. It's a lot of a request, and we need to get a more robust sequencing model. So what I'm proposing now is a hybrid sequencing model within Clean Water Services to address both the agile process as well as having a planning process as well. So the outcome for this is develop and implement a digital solutions project sequencing model that aligns technology and resource investment with the organizational strategic goals. Because the other challenge with this work queue model is that everyone can submit a request. So there's not a good coordination even within department. It's loose that priority within the department. So I put a team together. I'm the lead, and we have our chief strategy officer is a sponsor, and then the 2 team members. And I have been bringing other people on board and giving them the idea and just getting them on board. And then this model or this framework first will be presented to our executive team and getting their approval, and then we'll start implement that. So this is a general a way that it will work is so it's this is all the different departments. You can see the field operations, HR, business, the finance, and wastewater, and all the department. And then we're going to every department have a coordinator, and then they will work with each department or programs to plan and coordinate on the project need. And then there will be a digital solutions, the kind of a committee, project sequencing committee, and with the criteria based on strategic value, need, urgency, cost, time, which is really resource, and the business feasibility and technology feasibility, which is like what Cello you have, whether the good technology is available, and also whether it's innovation or not. So the digital solutions will form a committee, which is what I'm thinking about is for digital solutions management team plus 3 or 4 departments, kind of a leadership. So having this as district wide. So it doesn't feel it's IT driving the process, or it's the business. It's only the business doing that. And then this will be presented. This will be provided to the strategic advisory group, which is basically our executive team. So if they have any questions or concerns or things, then we will address that. Otherwise, we will continue the project execution and investment on I'm thinking initially probably a monthly basis, just because this is a new change and just trying to capture all the change, and it's a change management as well as the new process here. But then after 6 months to a year, we'll go to the quarterly plan. So I will stop here for a second. It's a busy graph. Anyone have any questions or comments? I'm very open to that. This is a draft form I plan to share with the executive team in a few weeks. Mike?
Yes. Ting, how long is this process designed to take time-wise?
The design, you mean here?
Well, for instance, is this an annual exercise that you go through as a collaboration, and then you come out with making the investment?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question, Mike. I think it would depend on the level of effort. So annually, right now is our budget season. So we are capturing all the budget-related software needs and purchase and all that. Like Scott is, we are centralizing a lot of software purchase and hardware stuff. So that's the annual process. However, this project request, I was thinking more is initially on a monthly basis. I don't expect every month we'll come up with a new project. I hope it's not. However, I think just because it's a new process and change, I'm planning to have a monthly kind of a check-in with the committee and the strategic advisory group until we optionalize, which is takes 6 months or to a year, and then become a quarterly process. But if there is an urgent project, it's a regulatory related things, we'll just jump in right away. So there will still be that accommodation on those type of things.
There are some hands raised. I believe Scott Barker and then Steve Wood. Scott Barker.
Hey, yeah, Ting, this is really good. I have a couple of just kind of general questions. Like, so I think you kind of mentioned it, the scalability, right? So how often are you guys undertaking sort of major systems upgrades where something like this would be necessary?
Yeah.
Are you doing it pretty regularly right now, or are you doing it? I guess the other piece of that, just to add my second question, which I think relates, which is like, would the idea be that this group would kind of review configuration changes or change control stuff, or what's your sort of vision into the rest of that?
That's a great question, Scott. This project, the project request represented here don't include any configuration, patching, upgrade, those type of a project. Because what I consider those are non-discretionary project, you have to do anyway. These are the things it's nice to have, but we have to prioritize and the sequence at the utility level. So actually I have 4 categories here, and I have another slide here. So taking on water and the weathering the storm. So it's like a crisis or things we have to do regardless. So these are the things, it's more of an update to everybody, but we don't plan to talk a lot and prioritize a lot. The more is on the smooth sailing and the future destiny. So these are the things we want to invest, but we want to be strategically investing in the future.
Gotcha. Do you have a couple? I'm sorry, one more just add on before you get Steve. Do you have a couple of, like, I would call them more imminent system purchases or upgrades or whatever that are sort of looming that will be taken through this process, or are you kind of just like, where are you at? Do you have anything like that kind of imminent?
like a GIS migration to the
I
cloud.
was thinking like the utility network upgrade would be a good one. Another one would be like a purchase of like aggregation type software or hydraulic modeling software or other things
Yeah.
along those lines. Are you looking at doing any of that, or are you trying to perfect what you got?
We are. That's in the next 2 or 3 years. Let me just quickly go through this one, Scott. So what I was thinking about is, there's an impact high or low, and then there is an effort high or low. So when you talk about cloud infrastructure and then the cybersecurity and things, its effort is low. It's not directly related to the business, but it's a foundation and a building block. So I'm putting the bubbles here, and then versus some of the permit compliance and bug fixing, it's here. And this is a more workflow automation, kind of a traditional IT type of work.
Yep.
So I'm hoping the committee will be going through this exercise to look at a multi-dimensional prioritization and then present to the leadership. And then we want to minimize the personal preference, right? It's people want just a one single computer configuration thing. So those are the dog projects there.
Those never happen, ever.
Yeah. So great.
Thank you.
So, and Ting, this looks awesome. My question is around finances. So how financing comes to it. Does the business unit have to come in and say we've allocated the funds for this, or is that, because we have that's our technology procurement in the city of Charlotte gets really complicated with that, where you almost have to have funding identified. So if they say, cool, you can do it, you can actually go and run with it and have the money to, send out to bid and do your RFP and all that. Just curious how that works in your model.
That's a great question. That's definitely a continuous improvement process there. So we don't have we have the funding. Typically, we plan the funding for software purchase or things, but we don't have a good allocation on resource. If you have a big CIS project or GIS migration, so we haven't been really good with planning that on an annual basis. I think that's definitely something that we need to do there, Steve, and I'm curious about how you guys do that as well.
Yeah, because we did a lot of, we just implemented some new human capital management software, and there was a lot of, as part of me going through a similar process, as I had to say, go to my chief CFO and say, if this were to be approved, could you allocate, and I had to have a dollar mind, a ROM estimate sort of, to at least know that if I got approved, I had funding. So that was.
Hey, Steve, are those budgets in the individual operating unit for those software upgrades or those system upgrades or system changes?
I was looking at this from, it was a new implementation, green. So, and then we actually had a little funding left over. And so we were able to pay for the full 5-year contract term for one of our solutions. But normally it would be built into our standard operating budget. They're on an annual basis for that type of stuff.
The reason I was asking the question is that was I mentioned earlier we did that was the other piece that we did is I basically put all of the so what we had was software maintenance costs or system upgrades in each individual business unit's their budget, and I just consolidated all those as well. So by doing that, that was how I was able to also say, like, you got to go through this more robust review process, business case process. That was somewhat, that was helpful. That was very helpful. I'll say that was really, that changed the dynamic as well.
And some of our stuff is very centralized like that, and some of our stuff is still, kind of, HR is allocating a certain amount of money toward this because it's an HR solution. And so we're kind of, it's a moving target, I would say.
That one of the hardest parts was finding all the, I called them just like boxes of money where that was happening, right? Oh, this is the CIS. Oh, this is in customer service, or oh, this.
Right.
So that it took me about a year to figure that out. So.
We did that too, and it's been helpful. Like a NeoGov from HR now it's transferred to the DS budget. But I see also there's a consultant professional services need. I think we're not there yet to consolidate all those related to the technology project. But the software part, we are there.
I was able to do that too. So.
Oh, good. I love to follow up on that.
Weirdly, the money talks. You can make a money go into your spot, your budget. It can change the dynamic pretty quick. So.
Great. That's
not always.
Mike had his hand up.
Easy.
Well, I think Scott Haskins has a question in the chat. I yield to Scott.
Oh, how you're dealing with system? Yeah, Scott. So anytime you have a new system online, you typically requires more integration. So we treat the system like a new system is a one project, and then the integration is a separate project. So it just goes through this project request and going through this and based on the business need and the focus on that. There are a lot of integration project needs.
And you would basically have costs and resource requirements reflect what would be needed to integrate with the rest of your other systems.
Yeah, we have a project plan. What I say is our digital solutions team is doing pretty well on project planning. However, I'd say it's the need on business side, capturing more of a business requirement. Sometimes it's talking at the same language. There is some gaps there.
Mike?
Yeah, Ting, how does this work with something that's innovative, that's not in the budget, but an idea or a pilot or something that might necessitate some IT department involvement?
Yeah, we so that's like the future destiny and things. Like for the IoT project, we have going to this the DIY approach. So we have that project with our capital budget for part of investing on the innovation project. It depends whether it's operational or CIP. And then what I like, and it is a constant, I think it's the balance between, because there are always so many operational projects you could do versus the transformation, the truly transformation type of work. So what I like to propose is, so the innovation, like a lot of what I see the future will be decision support, the AI and the things and the IoT stuff. So I'm hoping and I'm advocating for 10% of the resource from DS will be focused on the innovation. And then there is the bottom, these are more non-discretionary.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for us, there's an IT, I'm calling it IT function or department threshold, pain threshold. They seem to be okay with it if, for instance, operations has the money. It just becomes a time issue with IT if there's they need to look at the cybersecurity aspects of a pilot. For instance, you're trying a center package or some piece of software. That's their primary concern. But when you get into other aspects, they get nervous because it could throw them off on their priorities for the other categories in this instance. So that's more of a comment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just to speak to that too a little bit, Mike. One of the things we've started to do is, and that helps a little bit with that, is we really drive in on those use cases. Like it's a anytime you like, to your point about the innovative stuff, right? Well, if you can't like sort of extol or sort of express in some level of detail why the use case, why we would want to do this or why we would want to get involved with that. First of all, then we don't typically consider it. But the other piece of the puzzle is when you do that, we have the capacity in our team to kind of look at it and say, can we handle this with what we already have, right? What would be that level of investment that would be necessary to do that?
Yeah, that's logical. Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, now we can't do that. So let's look at, I'm speaking to this, we just purchased a data warehouse for a particular, our project management PMIS system because of that very concept, if you will. So that use case process really has helped us a lot.
Right. You have to go through that. I was making the assumption it had gone through that, a pilot type idea has, saying that the enterprise does not, or other solutions do not address what we want to do and we want to try. So really good point there.
Cello?
Well, my question has a little bit to do with the governance of different types of aspects of technology. For example, IT versus information technology versus what's sometimes called operational technology.
Mm-hmm.
And whether and I have some data. I did a survey of about 18 utilities to look into it. So at Clean Water Services, for example, are the simplest way to ask is, where is the SCADA team? Is the SCADA team in IT, or is the SCADA team in operations or in engineering?
It's in operation, so it's part of EATS. So that's a new name. Let me see, Enterprise Asset Technology System. So which include the asset management as well as SCADA group here. So yeah, so it's not within IT.
Okay. Scott, you were nodding your head. You know where I'm going, right?
I do, and we're actually going through an upgrade to our wastewater SCADA program right now.
Yeah.
And so we've had SCADA for years, but we've never. The one change we made was we have two official IT liaisons to the SCADA group, because before we never had it. And then of course, anytime anything went wrong, what did they do? They call the IT guys, right? So now we actually we're kind of hybrid version of what you're speaking to there. And I think that's sort of always a question, is where does that live? The way we've come, it stays in the operational unit, but there's two designated SCADA representatives from IT as well. So.
Oh, it's part of IT organization, but it's designated to the OT work coordination.
Are you asking me if that's what we do?
Yeah.
So the operational unit is our treatment division, right? So they have the operational technicians that really run SCADA, but we have from our IT group liaisons that know about the design, understand everything but essentially the PLCs, all IT back end stuff. And our system is a fully separate network, so that's how we do it. Yep.
Yeah.
But Scott, in terms of decision making and development, where does the authority lie?
You mean like in design elements, or
yeah. I mean,
it's a team. The ultimate is the treatment division head or whomever is ultimately responsible for running the facility, but it includes the IT folks in the decision making.
Yeah, and I think
that's new.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's new. We kind of mandated that as well over the last year or so. Before that was not the case. It was fully at the operational level. It was the treatment division manager.
So project management would be there as well for the development and execution of the program.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
This, in my mind, where you put the quote SCADA people is such a critical, and the issues of governance are absolutely critical. First of all, if you looked at the org chart for some of the, like a wastewater organization, you'd never guess that sewers are connected to treatment plants. And it is the governance issues are, and we talk about technology silos where they are a reflection of the org chart. They're not, they didn't, when you buy solutions, they don't come with a silo, you know what I mean? They make silo out of it, they don't, it doesn't come off the shelf as a silo. I mean, it's a very, very complex thing where the interactions come into play. So
totally agree.
I want to ping Eric Griffin to see if he has anything to say, and just to make sure that he's paying attention. Eric, any thoughts or ideas?
I'm alive and well, Cello. Yeah, I don't work on the IT side, so for the questions and stuff, it didn't pertain. But the SCADA stuff really does fit in. I think that's really interesting to me. In our organization, SCADA and our control network are totally different than IT, totally independent. And as you probably can imagine, that causes some problems. And so as far as the IT group and what they're doing with technology and projects is completely separate from what I'm more interested in, the operations group and what they're doing with their data and trying to come up with solutions with data analytics on that side. So it's kind of a mess here. It sounds like that's not common.
I have I'd be happy to share. I can post it to this folder. I know we have only a few minutes for our meeting today.
Yeah.
I wrote a paper a few years back where I surveyed 45 utilities, and the conclusions from the survey is that out of all the technology projects, SCADA and the operational technology is off the charts the most risky thing to do. Anyway, just it came out. So Ting, I didn't mean to cut you off. Any other questions or comments from you or from people on your presentation?
No, this has been really helpful discussion, Cello. So I can stop sharing. So let's I'm curious about the data. I think we talk about the data and analytics. So Scott, sounds like you guys have a data and analytics team within your group.
Yeah, it's our newest part of our team. It's a business intelligence data analytics group, and so I'm the asset manager, so everybody knows. I just to kind of refresh where sort of I sit in the organization, but I'll say it simply like this. We require a lot of our operations staff, our engineering staff, others to input information into all of these systems that our IT group maintains, our GIS group maintains, so on and so forth. And we very rarely give them anything that they can use back. and I'm very, very, very. I pushed for 2 years for this to get our director to bite off on this creation of this group. Because what we often give back are nothing more than we expect a lot of our people, and what we give them back is of no real value. It definitely says I closed 45 work orders last month, or I met permit all month or whatever, but there's no context. So the idea behind that group for us was to create. I call them the group that creates the context, right? They look at the information such as it is. They resolve disputes in the data sometimes, right? If we have data governance issues or whatever, and then they provide that. The idea for them is to provide a deeper level of context back to the organization as it relates to what we collect. So,
Cello, it's too bad you didn't stop the recording. Darn.
Well, so anyway, we have just a couple of minutes left, and since a lot of people have back-to-back calls and stuff, I want to give people a chance to get a glass of water. And we're a little bit running out of time. We have some plans what to do in the future, and next time we meet in a couple of weeks, there'll be a bit of a workshop that we can interactively look at some of these things and collaboratively come to come up with some ideas and solutions. And before we end the call, I haven't heard from Jenny yet, and I just want to make sure that she's awake. Jenny, any comments from you?
Always checking on me, Cello. Yep, no comments from me today. I'm just here to absorb.
Okay. Well, any other comments before we wrap it up? I can see that Zoretta's having a good time, and I really appreciate that. So
yeah, I actually have one just really quick. Hey, Ting,
sure.
Did you post the presentation in the chat or somewhere?
I will, onto the SharePoint Cello has for our
Okay.
group. Yeah.
No, that'd be great. Thank
Yeah.
you. I think that's a really interesting model. I appreciate you sharing it. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. This is in draft form, so as we are getting more feedback, I'll let the group know as well. So
All my
Please.
stuff is always in draft form, you know.
yeah, please just keep it within the team here. So as we are finalizing the
Yeah,
process.
and both the Mentimeter results and the slides that I showed are already there, Ting, and I'll send you the link where you can post this, or you can just email me the file if it's not too big, and I'll put it there, whatever is more convenient.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and please, if you have any other questions, just send us an email and we'll follow up. And there will be some interactive stuff happening next week. So take care, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Cello.
Happy New Year,
everyone.
and thank you
Bye.
for
Good
participating.
weekend.
Be
Good to
safe.
see you, Zanetta.
Good to see you,
Bye.
Dr. Sweeney.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.